Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the League of Europe. It's been a few weeks, but we are back up and running and ready to go racing yet again here in LOE Division 2. This is the 10th round of Season 5, and it is coming to you from Suzuka in Japan. So we should have a great race on store for us here tonight as we load in. There was a bit of a delay with the stream, bit of a delay with the whole session, we're unfortunate for the stream starting a bit later, but you can see that we have moisture in the air for qualifying, which is going to be a fascinating prospect to run you through the action in for tonight. It is myself, Daniel Hogarth, back in streaming. I think the connection has sorted itself out, so things should be running fine from now on. And alongside me in the commentary box, as per usual, here in Division 2, it is Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how are you doing, man? Yes, certainly. That's what we're going to have to be looking out for, of course, then. This track already, quite the challenge, but of course that will be amplified as these guys tackling the wet conditions here at Suzuka. You can see the intermediate tires going on. We'll see if the conditions are going to hold up throughout the session, and also heading into the race, we know that Suzuka can certainly throw up a bit of a rainy surprise, so that's going to be fascinating to behold then. As now we head forward, QVR Packer, as per usual it seems, the first man out on the track to kick things off and qualifying. The Alfa Romeo man, of course, one of the most successful qualifiers so far this season. And so he's going to do everything he can to try and keep that run of form going. In the championship standings, by the way, things at the top are very tight. XL Larkin, who has won 3 out of the last 4 races, leads, but leads narrowly. QVR Packer just 1 point back. And Matthew 40, another 10 points back. The other top 3 in the standings, they have gapped the guys behind a little bit over the last few rounds, and so they are looking very, very strong, but of course it can all change. But let's see what these guys have in offer around Suzuka now. First up to step up to the plate, and it's going to be QVR Packer. So let's see what the Alpha has in store for us then. As he gets out of the Casio Triangle, we see him fade in the car, but he gets over the lane and a kick things off yet again then. And so all the way down, of course, no DRS to help him out. He's going to charge towards turn 1, 316 k's an hour. Then onto the brakes and using the curb, runs at a little bit wide. Braking distance is different, of course, then. Begins decent traction, big oversteer though, but he holds onto the car now, heading into the SS section then. Of course, commitment out of it, but you got to be careful not to oversteer it then. It's all a constant battle with your own willingness to press forward. And so QVR Packer having it just hanging on in there, heading through Dunlop Curve then. Tricky even in the dry, more so in the wet, but he's able to adjust them out, keep it together. Now into the second sector of the lap then, into the Degna curves then, takes the first one nicely then into Degna 2, probably a bit more difficult for traction, through the exit, able to manage those Packer, and now heading in towards the hairpin at the middle of the lap then, big stop then, 7 down to second gear, big lock up as well, from Packer, takes a very tight line over on the inside line, working, trying to get some traction off the exit, heading into 200R, which is easily flat out, and the dry just about flat in the wet, but of course, there's a little bit of willingness to keep it going. Of course, the wet conditions making it more difficult. Now to smooth curve then, going from curve to curve, white line to white line, as you maximise everything through the exit, and the exit critical as you get back onto the throttle, heading towards the legendary 130R corner then, of course, getting in, easy flat, and the dry. How committed is QVR Packer, bit of a left on entry, and then flat through the exit. So now towards the final few corners in the Casio Triangle then at the final chicane, takes it nicely, gets a decent enough exit and trying to finish that throw now to the latest Packer then, crossing it now, and QVR Packer opens up with a 137.1. Going to be fascinating to see where everyone stands there, but it's Packer to the top. Expect more times coming in past though, but Packer on top. Let's see if anyone on top of it, and Larkin the Rainmaster goes even faster, 36.7. He gets the early edge of his championship rival. Yeah, certainly, of course. Maybe a bit more fuel being put in the car then, giving them a bit of a chance to press forward as Dylan out the session. That's heading through 130R then, and you can see the danger of that track as Matt Tibos goes emphatically fastest on the 36.3, but XL Dylan going off then must have just snapped it, and that's the issue, of course. You're pressing to the limit, you want to take it flat, as you mentioned Larkin doing, but as actually, I'm just hearing actually in the comments, I'm not sure if your audio settings are right because you're on a new account, so I don't think the guys can hear you over on the stream. So you might want to have a look at your party audio settings for the moment, Hayden. But you can see the lap times coming in right now. Matt Tubos is to the top still, and that was a dominant time. As I say that, Larkin improves, but not enough to go fastest then. Still remaining on a 36.360, just 200 separating the top two. That is going to be closely fought up at the front of the field. And McCrath now coming to the line, goes third fastest then. The times will come down as these guys get suited, get more acclimatized to the wet conditions out there. As we saw an improvement, TDB, who we saw how good he was in the wet at Silverstone back all the way in round 2. He goes onto the professional second row just in front of McCrath. So TDB again impressing, of course, already with a podium this season. As TDB 2 podiums, I should say, this season. So he's always impressing in the wet as well as Larkin. But it is Matt Tubos then, who of course relatively new. Matt T40 though replaces him up at the top then, 36.286. So that's the time at the moment then. They're continuing to fly in those. We're 6 minutes into the session. Aidan, are you all sorted with your audio settings? Are you ready to get back into this?
Hopefully I am. I should be all sorted. Rookie mistake from my end. I should have known that was coming. But anyway, on with the session. Like we were saying, obviously a lot of drivers coming in on their second laps and improving their times. TDB, I know from TDB, he has been struggling all week in the dry to try and find some rhythm in qualifying. He must be over the moon that qualifying is indeed in the wet conditions. He is so strong in these conditions, like I say, at Silverstone. In the first race of his championship in D2, he ended up on the podium. It was a brilliant, brilliant result. Looking a bit further down, Ariel Assassin just not doing too well in these wet conditions at the moment. He's half a minute up on his personal best, but his personal best is a 2:08, crosses the line, only 15th on the grid for the time being in the McLaren, not looking too comfortable in these conditions. Jumps just ahead of Ariel Nolan. Scuderia Seb is the last person who has set a time, but his time is not representative as it stands. Front of the field, Matt 240, looking really to bounce back from Singapore, isn't he? Singapore was not really the round he would have wanted. He had such great speed, was brilliant in qualifying, but in the race it all fell apart for him.
Yeah, certainly, and he will be ever eager to bounce back. There's no doubt about that. TDB just going over the line. He's just getting another lap kicked off as Spag. He's also a bit of a specialist in wet conditions. We saw him so close to the victory last season in USA in the wet, so we know what he has to offer as well. He puts himself into P6 then, as Matt Tibos was actually improving the AlphaTauri, but he has a validated through the middle sector, as it's so easy to do around here. Just press it a little bit too far. You got to watch out for everything out there. You got to be ready for all eventualities over in the wet conditions. To the line for the back is going to be XL Jaco in the second. Racing Point, he was down in the middle sector, down by slightly less in the last sector as well. And so we're just about halfway into the session then. All good so far, but Matt T40 on top. Very tight though between the top three, just a tenth of a second. The wet specialist, a lot of them coming to the fore. Matt Tavos, who we've not seen much of, really impressing in P2. He can be one to watch for tonight.
He really could. He's only raced, I believe, once so far this season. Obviously a reserve driver in that race. Qualified outside of the top 10. Didn't really shine in that race. It was a solid performance, but wasn't right at the front. This is definitely a turn up for the books for Matt Tibos. Maybe he is another wet specialist we need to look out for if he races more often this season. One thing I'm noticing, a lot of drivers are able to go faster on their second lap, but as soon as they get onto their third lap, they're pretty decent in the first part of the lap, and then it all goes away from them in the middle sector. So it seems that around this track at least, only 2 laps is really the maximum you can get out of the intermediates before you start to lose pace. Second in the championship, by the way, QV Alpaca, 14th on the grid at the moment, not enjoying these wet conditions whatsoever, while Matthew 40 and Larkin are first and third at the moment. So he really needs to get a lap in. He's 2 tenths up in the first sector, but at the moment that's not going to be enough to really bump him right up the field.
Yeah, he needs to find a big improvement. There's no doubt about that. One man I'm saying who's on a big improvement in the first sector was XL Jacos. The track evolves, so the conditions may change, and the Racing Point is on a massive hot lap as it stands right now. On for a potential pole position right now as he gets himself on to the brakes in a second gear through the Casio Triangle, punching out through the exit. This could be big from XL Jaco. Not seen too much from that this season. Now to the line, is it fastest for Jaco? Yes, it is, and he's stunning lap from XL Jaco right to the top by a quarter of a second as the racing point. So Jaco to the top, and that could say one of two things. Either he is absolutely flying in these wet conditions, or the tracks have all Packard proofs tonight. Still not really up then, but Jaco on top then. That throws a spanner in the works. Everyone else needs to chase that then. That was stunning from the racing point.
Yeah, really, really great lap time. And like you said, he's been mid-pack pretty much all season. He just hasn't been able to find that extra 2% or so to get him right to the front of the field. This could be the way forward for him. And he completely debunks the theory I had about the third lap, because he goes and sets that time on the fourth lap on those tyres. So brilliant time from J. Cole. Across the line comes Scuderia said, meanwhile only 15th, but it is an improvement and a representative time for him. So he goes up into that 15th spot. Arcolo, a qualifying merchant, you've got to say, so far this season has shone the most really in qualifying. Currently 14th on the grid. He also is not enjoying these wet conditions. Doesn't look like, from my end of things, that it is actually drying out. It's staying relatively consistent, so it's more about just being able to find the rhythm and be able to just keep upping the pace from then on. Another person that improved on their fourth lap was Zaldama, up into P5 in the Ferrari.
Yeah, he does enjoy that circuit, Zandma. He has a good record here in the past. And so he puts himself in a P5 just shy of XL Larkin, who still maintains fourth then. But it is his teammate so far. That is flying. But we still have a lot more to be seen from a lot of the grid. So let's see what everyone has to offer then in this final stage of the session. So let's keep an eye out on Arco, that you mentioned as pedigree and qualifying this season with a couple of pole positions to his name already. Coming through that middle sector is a full half a second up, which is putting him in contention for the front row as it stands, and if he can really nail down this final sector. So Arcolo now, nicely through the apex, bit of oversteer, through the exit now, in the fourth gear then, through the exit he goes, and he crosses Arcolo now, 14th at the moment, bang oversteer, holds it together, to the line, goes second on a 36.1, just over a 10th shy of the top time of Jaco, but a lot more lap times come in now, Aiden. They're all queuing up. Jaco smart though, that's going to be tough to beat. Even the top drivers are going to have difficulty finding that time. Jaco on top, 5 minutes to go. Can anyone top that? Jaco is really rose to the occasion here.
I'll tell you someone who is going to be able to stop that, and that's Larkin. Half a second up in the middle
Wow.
of the lap. He's absolutely flying at the moment in the second racing point. Comes around the final corner. Championship leader loves the wet conditions. Up towards the line he comes. It's a 35.7. What a lap from Larkin. Behind him on the road, Matthew 40 comes across the line. Only P4, only a slight improvement up to on a 36.1, so not quite able to find the same time improvement. Slash now up into second place on a 35.8. Race winner in the first round of the season. Hasn't really been able to repeat that performance since. Looking for something to boost himself back up the championship standings. That is a great qualifying effort from him. So Larkin once again excelling in the wet conditions. Slash in second, J. Cole third at the moment. Arcolo fourth, Matthew 45th. Scuderia 7, another driver that's jumped up massively up into P7.
Yeah, he has just got jumped though by Matsuos, who went sick then on a 36.233, just a hundredth of a second quicker. The margins as ever, even in the wet, so remarkably close here in LOE Division 2. That's what we love to see here in this spot. So who is going to be stepping up to the plate next up then? It is, I think, one of the McLarens. I think that's going to be XL Gary. No, he's a bit further down the road as it stands right now. And so Larkin on top at the moment then, just over a 10th clear though, so there's still, I think, more time for others to find. That's going to be the real challenge for all these guys. McCross is around the final corner now, heading to the line of the Haas. P10, where does he jump to? Is P4 on a 36.133, just fractionally in front of E-Corps Arco. The times continue to come down the track, continues to evolve, the drivers continue to improve, and so anything can change amongst the order here. Larkin from Slash, from Jaco from McCross, the front two rows at the moment. 4 minutes to go, still a lot more lap times to be seen then. Larkin on top, the wet mask. Can anyone else challenge it? Because his championship rival struggling comparatively. Packard down in 13th. He needs a big effort to get himself further up the grid.
Yeah, he's just not been able to find that extra little bit of time. He's come back out a little bit early, so I think he's going to be running another couple of laps on this final set of tyres, but just hasn't been able to find the time in these wet conditions. He's another driver that's not really enjoyed the wet conditions so far this season. Silverstone sticks that in mind after performing so well in Austria. He struggled at the bottom end of the top 10 in Silverstone in the wet conditions, so clearly not suited to his liking. Zaldama currently on the lap, but only 200ths of a second up, so he's not finding enough time to move himself further up the grid at the moment. Let's see what his final sector sector is like. If he can find any time in this final sector in the wet conditions, there is a lot of time to be found in that chicane if you can absolutely end it. Look nice and neat from Zaldimer as he comes up to the line, and he found no time at all. In fact, he lost about half a hundredth of a second. Stays at 10th on the grid for the time being. TDB's on another lap as well, but similarly, he's not finding a lot of time either. Nolan now improves on a 36.6 to go P14. TDB coming up towards the end of the second sector. Let's see what he can do. We imagine he's going to be towards the front of the field because he is so strong in the wet conditions. Comes up to the second sector split now, and he's half a second up, so he's found a lot of time in the middle part of the lap. Really pushing it through 130R. That was close to dropping it completely. Really well held, but he goes a little bit deep into the chicane and cuts the chicane completely to end that lap. I think that mistake at 130R and then running deep at the chicane lost him all the time he gained in the middle part. So he dives into the pit lane, maybe hoping to come out in time for one last run.
So let's see if he can pull it off then. Of course, the pressure mounts as we near the end of the session. And as Cadell, I was watching Jaco, massive sound on earth as he held onto the car then. He'll keep it going, but that'll probably cost him a chance at running at his teammates' pole position. So he is going to have to push again, and he's got the battery to do so. Jaco, it doesn't improve. He is going to press on, trying to get to bigger and better things further down the line then. Coming up to the line, that's the Ferrari of noon. He's just got one kicked off then. Needs a big effort as well to get himself up there. Of course, second to the championship at the moment will be hungry to try and find that little bit more. His teammate Zerma is slightly down through the middle sector of the line. Then into the Casio Triangle, breaks as late as he dares and makes the apex nicely then. Through the exit he goes, and XL Zerma now fading that right foot, fading that throttle pedal, fading the grip now up to the lane of Zerma, but he doesn't find the time down in the last sector. Behind is the Mercedes to the line. Ryan goes into 11th, another driver that's traditionally excelled in the wet conditions, hasn't quite found the speed so far today. Is going to again need to try and press on a little bit more out then. Span behind him, he's invalidated. He is going to press on further down the lane. I think it's going to be XL Gary coming up now. The Irishman is 2/10 up in his lap then, powering to the line now. Where does this put him in? Puts him up in a P5, loses a bit of time, would have got him in front of Jaco. He settles for 5th, so Gary moving up P5 at the moment, but the lap time's going to shuffle. Everyone's going to find the time, and this board, I assure you, will not stay put then. Everyone's going for it. Who's going to grab that all-important pole position? And a track like Suzuka getting up the front of the grid is critical. Everyone's going to be pressing. Who's going to get up the front of the grid here?
It's going to be so close at the moment. Jaco on another lap, not improving. He hasn't been able to find the time at the moment. Packer on his next one, only 10th. He can't get any higher than the bottom end of the top 10 at the moment. He's really struggling to find the time in these wet conditions. Matt Tibos starts his final run in qualifying. Larkin, TDB and Assassin really cutting it fine to the line at the moment. I don't think TDB is going to make it to the line in time, so his qualifying session is over. So 13th is the best he can hope for in this session. That is such a shame for a driver who's excelled in the wet conditions so much so far this season. Across the line comes Assassin. He's able to start his next run in the session. Zaldimer will be next, but again, he's just not finding any time. He keeps running around at very similar lap times. Just can't seem to find anything higher than what he's already done. Crosses the line, and that is his qualifying session over. So for a driver that looks so strong in the dry conditions around this track, 11th is not what he would have hoped for in this session. Just waiting for the rest of the drivers to come towards the end of the line now, and I don't think really anyone's on a time. Slash has invalidated. Larkin, though, has gone even faster in the first sector.
So Larkin flying along nice today in the racing point. Can he extend that pole march and then try and put himself a little bit higher up the order? To the latest Spat goes 8th on a 36-2, and I think that was Scootery Seb and a P4 backing up his teammate then for tonight then. He gets onto the second row, but how is anyone going to try and displace him? MMA Slash though up to the line, but he is down. He would have smashed pole position, but it's not to be then, as now QBR Packer, he's backed off then. So let's watch Matthew 40, 310 up, middle sector, looking at a front row start then, round the final turn with his championship rival Packer down. He needs to find enough to keep with Larkin, to the line as well, into the wall, and Matthew 40 still improves. He goes 5th with a dramatic conclusion to the flying lap then. Behind is Matt Timos, goes pole by 200ths of a second. second from XL Larkin. Will that be enough then? Further back, Noon improves then as Larkin goes faster. A 35.4 then smashes the field. Goes fastest, Ariel Assassin. It's half a second up and invalid. So the McLaren comes a cropper. He ends off the session. Drama here in Suzuka. Brilliant stuff. Larkin on pole position. The Rainmaster strikes again. But Slash as well. A time that would have got pole. Gutting for him to miss out as well then. Larkin it is from Matt Tubos. Slash P3 in the end then from McCrass, Noon, Scuderia, Seb, Jekyll and Matt in the first 4 runs then. Matt. Oh my, could have been so much more. XL Gary Arcolo, they round out the top 10. And behind that you have Spag Packer. Packer way down the order then. He's going to find a lot more time. And come the race. And down about right, TDB Noah, Ariel Assassin, uncharacteristic down in qualifying for him. And then of course XL down. We saw that incident at 130R. Dramatic qualifying session in the end. Larkin storms the pole, but I think the man in P3 will be gutted. Pole was in his hands, but ultimately it just got away from him.
Yeah, it did fall away from him at the end, Matthew Fordy. What a mistake to make at the final corner. He wouldn't have got pole. There was no doubt about that. Larkin's final run was massive, but there's a great possibility that Matthew Fordy could have been on the second row without that mistake. Instead, he's on the 4th row and in 8th place. And like you mentioned, Suzuka, track position is so crucial around this track. So being 8th on the grid could really work against Matthew Fordy in this race. Obviously, coming into the dry conditions for this race then, the good thing about this is that all the drivers can now start on the tyre they choose. So we're going to see a real mix of strategies, I think, across the board, unless drivers all go for the same strategy. In theory, the medium to soft is probably the faster strategy, but do you take that risk having qualified at the front of the field if you're Larkin? It's a really bold choice to make if you go for the mediums, if you're on the front 2 rows of the grid. It could play out perfectly for you, but if you get a bad start, then you could be a sitting duck for the soft runners.
What's also to be mentioned is the fact that the soft tyres are going to be better than usual for starting out, because of course wet qualifying going to be completely fresh, and so that could sway people further up the front. It's going to be very key to see. I think you're right with the fact that a lot of drivers, I think further down the order, are going to be starting on the medium. I don't reckon anyone's going to go for the hard. I think that would be a very unique, very odd, it must be said, given that the tyre deck isn't too bad around here. A soft to medium strategy or a medium to soft strategy is very doable around here, but it's going to be fascinating as we now are just seconds away from getting on to the grid. Hopefully a great race in front of us. The grid a little bit jumbled compared to what we usually see, thanks to those intermediate conditions and qualifying, and I'm seeing a real mix at the front of the field, and actually I'm just seeing one outlier. Look at this, and the field almost unanimous, and it's Larkin and Matt. They've taken the rest, they've gone soft. Game on. Wow, that's an intriguing prospect.
That is a much bigger amount of people that went for the mediums than I would have expected. I would have expected Matt, of all people, to go onto the mediums, considering his qualifying wasn't the strongest he would have gone for, but only Larkin and Matthew Forty on the softs, considering where they are in the championship at the moment. That is a very, very bold choice. So now we've got to look to how well the medium runners can get off the line, and if Larkin can break the DRS. If Larkin can't break the DRS to Matt Tibos or Slash behind, his race is pretty much over, because when he comes into the pit lane, he is going to get swamped by soft runners towards the end of the race, especially if there's a late safety car. That's going to be a massive risk to this race. Larkin and Matthew Forty are going to be hoping that they get a good start and they get a race that is safety car free, otherwise they're going to be sitting ducks at the end of the race. One thing to note as well, coming off of qualifying, obviously wet qualifying favoured Larkin quite nicely there. This could be massive for his championship, with Mandy 48th and Packer 12th at the moment. Coming off the back of 3 wins in the last 4 races, like you mentioned earlier on, he's on a run of form, having not started off the championship too well. This race could be the race where we could see maybe a breakaway driver in the championship.
Well, we never know how these 27 laps in front of us are going to unfold then. But for our 2 championship contenders who have opted for the soft tyres, they need a good start. A good start, adamant to how their race unfolds then. Matt Tubos, the leader of the medium runners, he want to hold back Slash and the rest of the chasing pack behind as well, as we now come to the grid. Larkin's run this out lap at quite a pace. Let's see if that's going to pay off for him. So now to the front is Larkin. Matt Tubos will start alongside him ahead of this race then. One of the most interesting, I'd say, we've had in the world then with the wet qualifying, mixing things up. Going to come to you quickly in the Carter then. Before we get into the race, what's your top 3 prediction? How do you reckon this one is going to unfold?
I don't think Larkin and Matthew Forty have gone for the right strategy here, if I'm completely honest. I'm looking at Slash. I think Slash could pick up his second win of the season. He was so strong at Japan last season. But alongside Slash, I'm looking at Macrass and Noon as well. I think Slash, Macrass and Noon could be a great bet for the podium.
Well, let's see how things are going to go down as at the back of the field, Dylan in the Mercedes takes his place then. But at the front, it is Larkin. If he wants to win this race, he needs to maintain this lead. Matt T-Boss will throw everything at him as now everyone lined up then. And the lights come on for the Japanese Grand Prix. We have 5 lights. And we're away here at Suzuka from the front of the grid. It looks like Larkin's got away pretty well. Then he's maintained in front of Matt T-Boss. He's having a cover of MMA Slash, and they also led to possession nicely then. Slash is round the outside, runs on a road on the outside line, and jumping about there as they all jostle further back down the road then. Matt T-40 battle with Jacob and heading into the S's. The Racing Point just about stays in front of the Red Bull. Further up the order then. Scooter Ray Seb trying to line up Exil Noon. He's still got pressure from the Racing Point behind as well, but Larkin's got away nicely. Cleanly from the front then. He leads. They are chasing AvaTauri. He's at the back. What's going off then, I think, through the S section, dropping back with wing damage to the Ferrari, suffering early on in the race. It's the man who's had so much success in this track in the past, but it's Larkin who breaks away. Matt T-Boss chasing him, Slash a little bit further back. He's got a lot of pressure from Macrass. Slash tries to get that second place, couldn't quite get it. Matt T-Boss got away decently. Matt T40 is attacking Jaco further down the order, trying to sweep around the outside at 200 then, running up towards the grass then, and Jaco fighting for all his worth then, with Scooter Reassess just in front. He backs off them this mat then, unable to quite see through this good spin curve then. So it is Jacob that stays in front. He's trying to attack Scooter Ray, set further up the order as well as Matt gets a stunning exit off his spin, and it's looking around the outside now, heading towards 130, squeezed up towards the grass then at 315 k's an hour, level through 130. Matt Wade on the outside holds on the AstroTurf then, diving to the inside of the Casio Triangle, still wheel to wheel, but Jacob bravely round the outside then. Matt, can he find a bit more traction on the curve then, trying to force his way through it, still side by side down the main straight. Watch out for the McLaren. They made a full safety car deployed here at the start of lap 2 then. Matt T40 did get past Jaco. Manic run to the first few laps, several cars to the pit lane. What a crazy first lap that was. Larkin led away at the front then. Matt T-Boss couldn't go with him, but now the race neutralised. What a crazy start to the Japanese Grand Prix that was.
Absolutely manic start. I don't know what happened to Ryan towards the back. I don't know if he got caught up with someone coming into the pit lane, and that's what caused him to come out of the race, but he didn't. I don't think he crashed into the end of the pit wall. So it's a very bizarre incident for Ryan, for him to be out of the race so early on. That is such a shame for him. Drivers into the pit lane were Spag, Dylan and Zaldimer. I think it was Dylan that got caught up in contact at the very back of the field. Spag and Zaldimer ran into each other and got both of them drivers damage on the front wing, so that's why they're into the pit lane. Interestingly, Dylan and Zaldimer going for the hards, Spag going for the medium, so I think he's going to have to make another pit stop in this race unless the safety car stays out for a long time. Actually, even started on the medium, so he is going to have to start. That's going to have to make another pit stop in this race, so it's going to be a long race for Spag to get back towards the front. For Matthew 40 though, the start of the race did not go to plan for him. He hasn't really gained anything. He's gained 1 place on J. Cole, but apart from that, up from 8th to 7th on a set of softs with an early safety car isn't good enough for Matthew 40. He needed to be 2 or 3 places up the road by now. Hasn't been able to do it. So now it's a case of the medium tyres are going to get better and better in comparison to the softs as the race goes on. Matt could just get stuck in mid-pack here.
He's got to be clinical with the moves, but of course Suzuka, a desperately difficult track to get those manoeuvres done. He needed to move through early, ultimately wasn't quite to be, and so those overtakes are going to be much tougher as Larkin from the lead, diving in. Does Matt do the same? Yes, he does. Are these guys going to go for the hard tyres then? Gary's going in as well. Are we going to see any more then? TDB diving in, and the Alfa Romeo. So this is really intriguing now. So 4 drivers diving to the pits. It's going to be hard on, I imagine, for the whole quartet, and they're going for hards, looking to the end of the race, and this is so intriguing now. These guys taking this opportunity. Will the hards make the end? If they do that, they are essentially giving themselves a free pit stop. It's not over yet, but Larkin emerges from the pit lane, Matty 40 chasing him. This is so fascinating. If these hards last, this could be a genius strategy call from these guys.
It really could, yeah. And I think the hards should last to the end of the race fairly easily. I think they'll be okay towards the end. The problem is their pace. What is their pace going to be like to the medium runners towards the back of the queue? They've got 10 medium runners in front who are going to be going for at least another 12 or 13 laps in this race. So if they get stuck at the back of this queue, that could give the likes of Matt T-Boss and Slash enough time to build enough of a gap to come out close to the hard runners and then overtake them on the softs towards the end. And if we get a late safety car, that plays even better into the medium runners' hands if that happens. So it's a real risk coming in this early for a set of hard compound tyres, but I guess Larkin and Matthew40 didn't really have any choice, because Larkin's lead that he'd built on the first lap got wiped out, and Matthew40 was getting stuck in the mid-pack, so if they'd stayed out, then they would have been mirroring what the medium runners would have done on slower tyres.
What they need to do now is make sure they're keeping those hards in a good temperature window for when we get back on the way, so they have enough grip to stay with the pack in front. If they stay with that DRS range, then that could work wonders for their Grand Prix, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to. These are two high quality championship contenders, but it's going to be all the more difficult, I suspect, to stay with drivers that are quite simply on faster tyres as it stands. So watch out for those guys to try and stay in contact. I don't think they're going to be going on the offensive at all, though. And so essentially, we've got two different races here. It's very similar to the Russian race earlier in the season, where we had all these different strategies coming together. We've got two distinct groups now within the race, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they all unfold. Is it going to be that pit stop on the safety car that comes on, or is it just going to be the extra pace that the guys who didn't pit are going to possess on these faster medium tyres, these softer tyres they have underneath them? So Matt Tebos Road, we've only seen one race, you mentioned earlier on from him this season, hasn't started the last two, now has a real opportunity to impress here at Japan. We saw him in Australia, now he leads the race here, but he needs to find a lot of speed here. He needs to be on it. It's not just about controlling from the front, he needs to push, he needs to get a gap on those hard runners so that he's got a fighting chance later on in the race then. He's got to dig it deep here, Matt Tebos, and dragging it. Such a high quality driver like MMA Slash behind him. He's going to be all over him then. It's going to be fascinating to see how the restart will unfold, but Matt, from the front of the field, he's going to try and manage it. MMA Slash will throw everything at him, but Matt needs to press. If he does it, if he isn't quick enough on the front, it's going to give those hard runners a real chance to stay in contention here.
Yeah, he's got to be on the ball immediately. He's got to nail the safety car restart and try and break the DRS to the drivers behind. What could really help him for here is if he tries to just break up. Oh, someone spun. Matthew40 spun behind the safety car. Spun behind the safety car, trying to warm his hard compound tyres up. I don't think he's hit anything by the looks of things, but he's just plain spun coming up towards the first Stegner and has dropped to last. What a crucial error to make for Matthew40. I think Spag's going to have to let him back through. But what a rookie error for Matthew40, who's looked so strong all season long. Singapore fell apart for him. And now this, I can't remember the last time I've ever seen someone spin behind the safety car.
That is very peculiar from a driver of his quality, there's no doubt about that. And of course a man that has 4 podiums this season, more than anyone else besides Packer. Very, very unusual. Now he's got a real task in front of him then to fight for the back. All of a sudden, that's places that he had. He's lost out to Gary, to TDB, to Dylan and Zerima. Now he needs to work his way through, and his championship rival Larkin just has that break up the road then. Safety car will be in this lap, and it's Matt Tebos controlling the front of the race then. From MMA Slash then, waiting to get things underway as he backs them up then, running at quite a high speed. Is he going to go early here? He still baits his time now, heading through the Casio Triangle to the exit. He's staying out. I'm not sure why. My apologies, because I thought that he was leaving quite a bit of a gap there, but he is going to continue. I'm not sure why he backed off then. I didn't see the message, but it kind of fooled me. He gets back up to it then. That's very confusing. I'm very sorry for that mistake, but Matt Tebos' safety car will stay in front of the lap. Not quite sure he's disconnected from the session. Oh dear.
Oh, what a shame for Matt Tebos, who had such a great opportunity. Oh, that is so heartbreaking for Matt Tebos, who's only second race in Division 2, leading the way so early on. That is an absolute disaster for the AlphaTauri. I think what he was doing, I've seen this a few times in other leagues now, is where the lead driver of the queue will just back off the safety car, and it keeps the safety car out for another lap, which is a very bizarre thing for Matt Tebos to do in his kind of position. He needed all the laps he could get to try and build enough of a gap to the hard runner. So doing that strategy didn't really make any sense in my head. I didn't know why he was doing it. Maybe it was just a symptom of his connection issues. That is such a shame for Matt Tebos. Then hopefully he can rejoin and get in control of that car before we get going again. If not, that then puts Slash in the box seat.
Yes, certainly, but let's see if he can get back in control then. He should have some backup lobby invites to get back in. He should, I imagine, reclaim his place in the session, but it will take some time, I imagine, for him to regain control of his car, and that'll probably kind of open up the door for the rest of the drivers then. So what does this AI car do then on the safety car restart? Is it going to back off the same as usual? Because of course he's going to be down on pace when it gets back on the way, and surely he'll be dispatched off easily by several of the drivers before he regains control of the AlphaTauri. And so that will be MMA/ promoted then. Very bizarre here. Again, very heartbreaking. We hope that he can get back in an ASAP, because he had such a great opportunity here in this Japanese Grand Prix. But let's see how things are going to unfold here on lap 5. Then we've seen a lot of drama in the opening lap, and now we should get back to racing, I imagine, then over the line here into sector 3, and there is the call from race control, and his AI car does back up the field, and so Slash just follows him through here. And I guess he just has to wait. Actually does get back up to racing speed here, so he's just going to follow the safety car. And we're going to get, by the looks of things, a very spread out start here. Now he sets off a little bit then, looking for the green flags then, as to when he's going to cascade onto the throttle. Away he goes, he backs off again, now he goes for good then, and away goes Matt Tibos, but obviously he's going to get swapped. And how is that going to change things then? Because McCross has got a great run on the back of MMA/ towards turn 1 in the Williams, just about staying in front then, as he run with right through Matt Tibos' CI car then, as they run their way through. But who's going to make up moves? It's Packer on our Arcola then, side by side through turns 1 and 2, and Packer is through, and a P7 on the road then. So up goes the Alfa Romeo, back goes the AlphaTauri, as further up the road you can see them both swapping Matt Tibos. So that was a good move from Packer early on to get through and gain a place on track where overtaking will be so difficult. But look further down the order rated, you can see the all medium runners stay together, but the difference in pace is adamant then. The difference in pace is clear to see, as Zanima and Dylan swapping places, heading into Daytona 1. The Mercedes back the Ferrari forward in a P14 then, but you can see them both swapping away from the back then. Larkin trying to stick with the Ariel Assassin, but it's looking difficult to stay with it then, and Gary's struggling even more, so the hard runners maybe not getting the temperature in. Larkin's doing a decent enough job. It's going to be difficult to stick with it though. The medium runners will be turning on at this stage of the race.
Yeah, that fairly spread out safety car restart has not worked for the hard runners. They've all split up, like you say, and then Dylan, a mistake at the top of Dunlop, has just brought those drivers a bit further back. That's going to hold Matty Fordy and Spag up a bit further down as well. Gaps forming in the hard queue, which is not what they need either. What the last thing the hard runners needed to do was split up. They needed to stay as a group if they want this strategy to work. Packer is really going for it. That's a really late dive, and it could just caught the end of that. And it looks like he might have just forced Jaco off the road, so he might have to give that place back, or he might be under an investigation from the stewards later on. That was a very aggressive move from QVR Packer. He's up into 5th, but I doubt that move, I think that move might be investigated after the race. Arcolo's now trying to go for the move on Jaco as well, who just understeers through turn 1, running side by side through turn 1. Very risky, and in the process, Jaco just understeers off the track, and Arcolo's now up into 6th place.
Jaco losing 2 places in a couple of corners, and I do think, yeah, Packer looked to have just got a bit, a bit over dramatic on the brakes then. Maybe lost the rear end a little bit, and that's going to cost him then. As you can see further up the order, Larkin is doing a good job actually of sticking with these guys, but some gaps going to be getting to form, and it's Gary that needs to really work to stay in contention. Further down the order, Matthew Fordy's not made much progress either. He's still sat there in 16th place after that error on the safety car, not finding the speed that he needs to or wants to at this stage in the Japanese Grand Prix. Up at the front, leads McCross pretty comfortably, 3/4 of a second. The advantage at the front of the race, and the Williams man will be desperate for a race victory after such a long drought. He was so close in China. He's got another great opportunity here. Of course, his season has begun to go off the rails. He needs to dig in deep here. Trying to stay with him then, and the XL Noon running up in the podium for the moment then. Further down the order, Jacob's on the threat yet again. This time it's Nolan looking to the inside line, and a Casio triangle gets alongside the racing point in the Williams, trying to bring Lee down the inside line. They almost touch, and Jacob face back, forces Nolan wide then, over the curb, over the AstroTurf, over the grass, and an Assassin going right up against the pit wall, trying to get alongside the Williamson, and the McLaren draws level down the pit straight then. They run towards turn 1 side by side then, round the outside is Nolan, just about out to the place. They both slide it out, maybe contact their turn 2. Nolan had to go from attack to defense. Oriel Assassin threw everything at him, couldn't get through. That was feisty, that was aggressive. Jacob a harsh defense. Nolan repeats the favour on Assassin. These guys all fading away, scrapping away. It's allowing the hard runners into it, and the gap in front now to Arcolo stretching over a second, and gaps opening in the medium tree now. Without the DRS, Jacob's going to find it ever more difficult to stick with those race leaders.
Yeah, the DRS train that we were worried that could happen for the medium runners is starting to break up. Like you say, the first in the queue at the moment that seems to be struggling is Scuderia Seb. He can't quite keep up with the top three at this point in the race. To say that, Slash has nearly broken DRS to McCrass at this point as well. So that's right on the bubble. McCrass has less ERS than Slash. So Slash really doing well on these medium compound tyres. He's got to go probably another 9 or so laps on these tyres before he can think about a pit stop for a set of soft compound tyres. Scuderia Seb is going to lose that DRS. He's got Packer right behind him. Arcolo's kind of on his own at the moment. He's got no DRS to Packer in front, and he's broken DRS to Jacob behind after that battle. So it's all starting to spread out a little bit throughout the field. This is only going to play into the top three's hands at the moment if this keeps spreading out. Two REL drivers, a Nolan and Assassin. That was very, very close. They're lucky to get away with it and stay ahead of the hard runners.
And now Assassin going on the attack onto Nolan, looking towards the inside line. Nolan don't think he's going to find it too hard this time. That said, they again run parallel down the main straight then. But Nolan, I think this time, stuck over on the inside line. Through goes the McLaren. Up into P8 that just makes the apex of turn 2, maintains that 8th position, trying to dig in and get up to Jacob in front there, but the gap's opening now. He's not quite able to match the speed of Arcolo. So low on the battery is the racing point, and is slipping back. Arcolo is really trying to work to stay with QVR Packer, who must be said after difficult qualifying, he has flown along so nicely in the race. It's going to race Seb. The first penalty then for the 4th place man then, as it's going to race Seb. Now at a major disadvantage, he's got several cars already within that range, so a lot of pace is needed now. Throughout the remainder of this, of course, that's only the second race he's ran this season, trying to make the most of it. But QVR Packer right ahead with more battery as well, looking to potentially go on the attack a little bit later on. Then is the man who currently sits in second in the championship right now, but he's not going to pick enough gap over the current championship leader Larkin, as Matt T-Boss does get back in, but a long way back now at the rear of the field. And gutting, it must be said, for Matt T-Boss, who drove such a great race up to that point then. Great qualifying as well, just ultimately not to be for tonight for the AlphaTauri, man. That's bitterly disappointment for Matt T-Boss. Hopefully we'll see more from it in the future. But look at QVR Packer now, right with Scooter Race Seb. Massive oversteer off the Casio triangle now, trying to get up towards him, and the Haas on the defensive here now, looking towards the inside line. Packer around the outside, heading in a turn on the draws level. Can he sweep around the outside? He breaks late, but yes he can. Brilliant from Packer. P4 now for the American. Charges through it in the end. Scooter Race Seb just couldn't hold it back then. TDB a penalty further down the order. Packer through on Scooter Race Seb. He is flying as Packer. His race pace so impressive. Now trying to chase down Noon up the front then. After a poor qualifying, potential podium on the cars here for Packer. Great driving so far. Now he's going to try and work his way up to that pack behind McCross.
This could be real great lap damage imitation for Packer if he can work this out. It's already nearly the into DRS range of Noon in front, but Kras has lost DRS to Slash, so Slash has pulled away now at the front of the field. He's done enough. This could be really great for Slash's race if he can keep this gap. McCrass is going to come under pressure now from Noon. Maybe Packer and maybe Scooter Recep if he can drag the other Haas with him up to the DRS range of Noon as well. Arcolo's not out of this yet either. Jaco is the real cork in the bottle. White's Assassin crawling all over him but can't find a way through. Jaco is now 2.2 seconds off the back of Arcolo, and is actually just starting to hold up his teammate now. His teammate's right on the back of this queue. The last thing that Larkin needs is to be held up by Jaco at this point in the race. He needs to get into some free air so that medium runners at the front of the field don't keep pulling away. At this point in the race, the hard runners are still going to have a hefty advantage by the time the medium runners come into the pit lane. But staying at this position on the track for much longer, Larkin is just going to lose time and time as the race goes on.
But he is only 8 seconds behind the race leader Slash then, so he has got a good track position as Packer flying. Fastest lap of the race, emphatically pressing on his Ariel Assassin now attacking XL. Jaco to the inside is going to be in a turn one, and Jaco with no battery is reluctant to fight it, and through goes the McLaren. But gaps have opened up further up the order, so Ariel Assassin is going to dig in deep here to try and cut down that 2.4 second advantage. Arcolo up the road then, who's starting to stick with Scooter ASM, and now these guys are bunching up in that battle for B2 because of the electrifying pace of QVR Packer, who continues to press on then 6/10 off the back of XL Lunar at the same time, beginning to struggle to keep up with McCrass in front, but Kras putting in a really big effort here to get up to Slash up the road. The gap's down by a few tenths on the last lap then, gotta keep pushing though. Slash is controlling it for the front end, but he's down on battery. He's gonna keep pressing that pace on them because he knows the hard runners Warriors are going to be in his way still come the end of the race. How much longer will the medium guys stay out then? You imagine if they're going to go for softs, won't be until about lap 16, I imagine, maybe lap 15, you're going to see most of these guys diving towards the pit lane. But Ariel Assassin looks to have good pace. He's managed to establish himself at the front of the train, and now Nolan on the back of Jaco, head towards 130. Surely not ready outside on the grass, 2 wheels on the grass. Can he get round the Williams then? Right around the long way round then, has the inside line into the Catastale triangle. It's bold, it's dramatic, but he gets through, does Nolan then. Brilliant stuff. But again, Jaco holding back his teammate, and is he going to attack Nolan, or is he going to allow his teammate to pass then? DRS for Nolan to defend now, and Larkin still bottleneck behind his teammate. Jaco will overtake down the straight, can't get through Nolan. Well, it was certainly dramatic on the grass, but round the outside of 130, we've seen some spectacular overtakes tonight. Nolan through, trying to stick with our Ariel Assassin, but the gap's dropping back, and he doesn't look like he's got too much pace. All the while, Larkin being held up. This is going to be a slash at the front of the track. A bit of a chance here. The hard one is being held up, then they have so much pace in hand, it seems, from Nolan that's in front.
Yeah, he just got so much more speed at the moment. Larkin can't use that extra speed he's got to make any moves. Gary has now caught these guys as well, having struggled a little bit earlier on. Pretty much all of them have caught now, apart from Dylan and Spack, who are really struggling on the hard compound tyres. They just haven't got enough pace. They can't keep up. At this point in the race, currently down in 15th and 16th. Gary a little mistake there at the hairpin. TDB thinking about a move on the exit of the corner, but just isn't close enough. Coming up towards Spoon, TDB has been tucked right underneath Gary ever since the restart under the safety car. TDB does look to have more pace on these hard compound tyres, but just can't find a way past the McLaren in front to be able to use that pace. He's just sitting behind at this moment in time, but when all the drivers in front come into the pit lane, it'll be a net P3 on the road at least for TDB if he can hold this pace. Meanwhile, further up, Larkin is let through by his teammate. J. Cole moves out of the way into 130R. Larkin up into 9th place. That's exactly what he needed. Larkin now needs to try and get within DRS Engine Nolan and keep up with the 2 drivers in front of him.
Yeah, certainly he's going to dig in here and try and get into that DRS range, but what Jaco can do now is play that rear gunner, as look at TDB, still hounding Gary. Gary, though, using the loss of his overtake to try and stay in front. Looks like he will just about stay in front of the Flying Dutchman behind him and the Alfa Romeo. But now Jaco is going to try and play that rear gunner then. You can see Gary, you can see TDB. TDB looks lightning fast, but again, like Larkin earlier on, just unable to quite use that speed to good effect, and it's still bottleneck behind. He's got Zerima for company as well. Without a penalty, he is gaining to Dunlop car, and he has got a good run as Zerima. Surely not though into deck the one. TDB will just about see that one off and maintain 12th place. But these guys all queuing up, and I'm sensing, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing, Aiden, a bit of impatience amongst these hard runners. They no need to press on. They know they've got a lot of speed here, but still stuck up behind. And you know Jaco, he won't let them through like he let through his teammate then. As now TDB attacking Gary to the outside of 200R. Gary again will hold on to it, keeping back, but the hard runner's definitely getting impatient, and Jaco will not let these guys through. This gives Larkin a chance to break away and run his own different race. He's pulling clear of the other hard runners now.
Yeah, this is great for Larkin at the moment. Horrible for Gary and TDB, but TDB again, another amazing run. He's got more ERS than Gary. He's going to go for the move at 130R. Down the inside this time around, he's got so much more straight line speed. Gary can't do anything about it. Oh, they make contact on the way into the corner. TDB and Gary run both off the track. Here comes Zaunima to try and capitalise on the contact between the two of them. Down the inside of the Casio triangle, Gary trying to hold it around. He's going to try and force Zaunima onto the curb. They make more contact coming out of the corner. Gary onto the grass coming out of turn 18.
Watch Matt.
Uses a bit... Yes, Matt going to try and get the pair of them here. Zaunima going all the way to the pit wall to try and defend that inside line. Matt's trying to go and split the middle. Gary's lost 3 places in 3 corners. Oh my word, Matthew 40. That was desperate to try and get down the inside of turn 2, but there wasn't enough room. Zaunima up into 12th, TDB up into 11th. Gary losing 3 places in 3 corners. What a disaster that was for Gary.
Yeah, Gary slipping back badly then, losing track possession from behind it, and now through goes Zaunima, through goes Matt 240, further up the road then. Matt, he was desperately lucky, I think, not to pick up damage. He went hard into the rear diffuser of XL Zaunima. Looks like he's just about got away with it, trying to stay with the Ferrari now, further up the road then. You can see the gap opening up between the racing points then, as Jaco holds back favour TDB. The Alfa Romeo trying to get up to the racing point, but it's not going to be close enough surely into Spoon car, but we already saw one overtake at 130R, albeit in slightly compromised circumstances. I surely didn't want it to go that way, but just getting dragged out wide as he came together with XL Gary. And I think Jaco, though, will have enough in hand then, as Larkin has managed to get up to Nolan, has managed to close himself closer to Ariel Assassin as well. And these guys Macross from XL Nunes looking quite facing it, chasing down. Packer just keeping up as it stands right now, but now going on the offensive. Slash go down to DRS, making good progress up then, but he's still not able to quite get through. But Nunes so close to Macross, not able to find a move to stick though, as now Larkin to the outside of Nolan, sweeping all the way around. Nolan face back to the big wheel-to-wheel contact. Nolan trying to force Larkin off the road, and a turn 3 they're still side by side then, and a turn 4 still level. They make wheel-to-wheel contact, and still Larkin hanging on in there. Now, heading towards the end of the end section. What a face in the fence, what a face the attack, and again at the tunnel they almost come together. Nolan holds onto the place, he got the elbows out, Larkin threw everything at him, but Nolan gets the place easily against Nolan. He holds on then, Larkin throwing everything at him, but I think on the end, the championship got in his way then. He loses out from Nolan. What a brutal fight that was for the first sector.
That was risky for our championship leader. It didn't pay off in the end. He has to stay behind Nolan. That's a little bit more time that he's lost to the medium runners in front, but he's lucky to get away with that. How many times did they bang wheels through the SS section and not actually make any severe contact for them to spin or get damaged? They're very lucky to get away with that, but that's allowed Nolan to fall off the back of the rest of the medium runners, and Larkin is now getting re-caught by some of the hard runners because of that as well. TDB trying to get the move done on J. Cole, but he's wasted all of his ERS getting past Gary earlier on, so now he doesn't have that advantage over J. Cole at the moment, who is plummeting on those medium tyres. He just hasn't got any speed at this point in the race, really struggling. Zauner at the moment looks to be in a better position as Noonan, Packer and Scooter Risev all into the pit lane for a set of soft compound tyres. They've come in at the end of lap 15 to try and undercut Slash and McCrass.
Yeah, of course, they were stuck in that upper midfield then. They're going to try and do something different then on the strategy. So when comes the Packer and Scooter Risev, they will all emerge then. As up at the front, actually I think it was a bit of a timing bug then. I saw McCross get up past Slash, but I don't think that actually came to fruition. Looks like they are still sitting in relative formation then in that front of the field. But these guys emerge, and look at the gap, Aidan. Nearly 8 seconds to make up, but they have much fresher soft runners underneath them then. 7.5 seconds, sorry, from Noon to Dylan. The undercut's going to be massive then. Noon can try and press up, and if he can get the most out of these soft tires, he could well jump Slash and McCross. Let's see what he can pull out there, but Slash and McCross going to be so vulnerable in this lap. They need a big unlap, otherwise they're going to be suffering at the hands of these new soft runners.
Yeah, they really are. It's now about the pace of the softs. How quickly can they catch Dylan and Spag in front? Spag is re-catching all the hard runners in front, so it's not exactly like the hard runners in front of these guys are slow. They're good. They've got good pace at this point in the race. They're actually the fastest of the hard runners at this point. So if they can catch Spag and Dylan quickly enough, then they could easily catch the rest of the hard runners. I will say, though, Packer looks like he's more looking like he wants to get past Noon before anything else. He's right up behind the rear wing of that Ferrari. Can he find a way through? Nuno's got a lot more ERS in hand that he can use to defend. Slash into the pit lane, McCrass into the pit lane as well. You would imagine Arcolo, Assassin and Nolan are all going to come into the pit lane as well at the end of this lap. No, Nolan's staying out for another lap, I think. Just trying something a little bit different. He's at the back of the medium queue anyway, so just trying something maybe a little bit different to give himself an opportunity if a safety car comes out on this lap. Larkin then up into second place. He's nearly into the lead. TDB down the inside of J. Cole. He's finally got that move done and is up into third place. J. Cole now is going to be holding up Zauner and Matthew Ford just behind him on the road. Where is McCrass going to come out relative to these guys? Slash been held in the pit lane. Slash he's stuck in the pit lane on my screen.
Yeah, I've got the same for MMA Slash. No idea what's happened there, but the Williams, I think he's had a massive game bug then. Oh, that's massively unfortunate. And both the early race leaders have had huge misfortune in this Grand Prix. And now he leaves the session and he drives away. Oh, that's gutting for MMA Slash then, who drove such a brilliant race. And again, as I think he is one of the most unlucky drivers in the division, a win at USA last season, gone away through connection, and this time, through no fault of his own, getting a bug in the pit lane, and hugely unfortunate for Slash. And now, of course, out of contention in the race. Further up the field, Zerma through, spin curve, gets in front of XL J. Golden as TDB tries to get up the road, trying to chase down Larkin. He's gone up to Nolan. Nolan, of course, staying out a bit longer. He couldn't come in because of Slash, and it's just as well he didn't come in, because of course we saw the very unfortunate situation that occurred for the other Williams man. But look at QBR Packer hounding XL Noon up towards 130, looking to the outside lane. He's trying to get alongside with the Casio triangle, and now he's going for the position here to the inside as Packer. Noon holds on no, up and around the outside. Now, through the exit, big overs there for the Alfa Romeo. Now he's on the attack. DRS, ERS, fastest lap in the race. The inside line, and this time Nunes nothing to defend with. Through goes QVR Packer to P9. He takes the front of the train then, trying to move up. The question is now, can he find a bit more out of these tires? He's got 5 seconds to make up. He's got a lot more pace than the drivers in front, but he's running out of time here, and Larkin at the front's going to lower across to protect him. The gap between him and Packer, 11.5 seconds. Is that good for Packer to make up then? That's a big gap, and with a lot of drivers to make through, I think Larkin may have another one in hand here.
It's very possible at this point in the race. Packer could probably easily close that gap, but like you say, there's so many hard runners that he has to pass. That's going to be so tricky for him to try and pull that off. McCrass did lose out in the pit lane in the end, dropped behind both Packer and Noon. So from a net second place, what could have been the lead if he pitted a lap earlier, is now third in that queue. So it's not good. It's not worked out well for McCrass at all. Okolo has got a penalty as well, currently running in 12th place. Assassin has caught these guys, so the pit stop phase has worked out quite nicely for the McLaren driver. Interesting, Nolan is staying out still. We're on to lap 18 of this race, still on the medium compound tyres. I think maybe just hoping for a safety car so that he can come in and gain back some of the time he's losing at this point in the race. I would say it's probably best to come into the pit lane now, and he does so. So the end of lap 18, in comes Nolan. He's the last of the medium runners to come in for a set of softs, and that puts Larkin now into the lead. TDB runs second, Zaldama runs third, but obviously TDB does have that time penalty looming over his head. Now it all depends on how quickly Packer can catch these guys, and another fastest out for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, these soft runners definitely flying, but the question is, do they have enough time? Time is the essence here, and look at Excel now, everything Packer. Of course, these guys look up for a fight as well, but realistically, they've got to work together to ensure they have that run up towards the drivers in front. So it's Packer from Noon, from McCrass, from Marcolo. That is the train, looking to try and chase those hard runners down, and that's the top 7 as it stands in. But Larkin at P1, Matthew 40s were running solidly in 4th, given the, of course, the mistake on a safety car. Of course, what could it mean for him otherwise? He could have been right up there with his championship rival, but he's still going to look to try and salvage a podium potentially out of this one then, if the soft footers cannot break through. Watch Packer then, coming out of the hairpin. He can just about see the Mercedes in the distance, but he's still got Noon, McCrass and Arcolo right there with him. Noon's going to chase him all the way then. Heading through, this is interesting now. Just about 8 laps to go in the race. Larkin leads. He's led the hard runners the whole way through. Is this strategy going to pay off though? Those hards will be screaming from underneath them. The tires will drop off, but it's such a big gap to make up. What is the gap to the leader? I can't see it. It seems to have punked out for me on this lap, I think, because of Slash leaving and joining the session. Again, then, of course, I don't blame him at all for that, but up in the front of the race, Larkin still leads. TDB trying to go with it though. He's got DRS and Zerma P3, got Matt back at P4. Matt's going to try and find a bit more, but he's got a lot to make up on Larkin in front there, so less a penalty. I think that Larkin is pretty safe at the front, but now the gap's coming down. Packer's getting about 2.5 seconds. The gap's coming down quickly, but isn't coming down quickly enough, and now Noon trying to tap, but he's sticking behind. Noon's not going through, but as I said earlier, the gap coming down, but is there enough time left?
I don't know if there is enough time left. Noon ran so wide in turn 2 that McCrass nearly thought about going past. He had to back out of the move. That was so close to contact. Smart for McCrass to not follow through with that attempted overtake. Sticks in 10th place for the time being. The gap has been halved in the last lap between Packer and Dillon. So he is flying. He's just got to try and get through these guys. One thing to note as well, Larkin in the lead of this race, TDB's actually caught him with less ERS. So TDB on the hards is absolutely flying. If he can pass Larkin and break DRS, it's not out of the question that TDB could still hold on to a podium position here, even with that penalty looming over him. At the moment, he'll only lose out to Zala and Matthew 40 as it stands. If he can get past Larkin, he can extend that advantage and gain even more places. So at this point in the race, TDB looks like the fastest hard runner on the track at the moment, just with no ERS to use in his back pocket. Although I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to move into turn 1 on this lap.
Will Larkin be willing to defend it? Will he accept the fact that TDB is quicker then, as the Alfa Romeo clues up to the back? Of course, he may try and play a bit of a team game here with Packer charging from behind. 2 seconds. It's his gap up to Dillon now, as now TDB looking for the race leader. Opens a DRS, using the last of his overtake to chase down Larkin towards turn 1. Is he going to get alongside? I think he's going to wait and bide his time and behind the race leading championship leading Racing Point. So it is still Larkin from TDB, from Zanima P3 then, who's holding back Matt, holding back Gary. Further down Neo to go there, Ariel Assassin to the inside of Scootery and Seb gets through, and at turn 1, and up in that 12th place and trying to stay within range of Arcolo, of course, who has that 5-second penalty heading into the pit lane. He's running with the lead so far as packing out almost something else. He's about a second a lap quicker than the Mercedes in front, trying to get through, but Dylan has DRS from Spag just in front, so that's going to be intriguing now. A fade to the line, Pagger now chasing down Dylan, can he get the moves done though? 6.5 laps to go, Pagger giving everything, but still the 2 championship contenders in front now. Larkin still in front there, the Scooter Race 7 on the penalty, and that's race. Pagger now up towards Dylan, but how far up can he get realistically? We're running out of laps, the stops will be going off then, so Pagger's going to be in everything, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough.
I don't think a second a lap is enough at this point in the race. He needs to be going even faster than that, because beyond Dylan and Spag, there's another 2-second gap back to the queue for 3rd place. So he's not doing enough at this point in the race. The hard runners are just sitting there in the queue, biding their time until the end of the race, and it's working nicely for them. Packer's got to try and get within DRS range of Dylan as soon as possible. But I still don't think he's going to be able to do it on this lap. It's 1.1 when they cross the sector split now. Across the line, he didn't get DRS that time around either, so Packer's going to have to wait another lap for an attempt down towards turn 1, which is probably one of the only overtaking spots on the track. With not long left to go, we've only got 5 laps once this lap is completed. I don't think Packer's doing enough.
He's got to really work here, but of course the soft tyres might not be giving him the grip though. But I was watching an exchange from the leaders then. Larkin defending from TDB at turn 1 then. He's not willing to get this off on track just yet. Go then, Packer trying to get up to Dylan, but Dylan with a DRS to the fend, even if Packer gets right up towards him, overtaking the turn 1 is going to be extraordinarily difficult then. And so Dylan protecting Spag. Spag in front's got a 2-second gap up the road. I think Packer might only be able to get up to the back of that train, sitting in behind Zanima for the podium. Not sure if he can get off any higher than that. And of course, Nud, McCross, Arcolo, they're going to try to take any opportunity they can coming out of the hair, but no, Packer is right there with the Mercedes then, chasing him all the way. But look at the race leaders as well. That TDB is not going to get this up, and these guys are being caught from Zanima. Zanima is absolutely flying at P3 then. His strength in this track showing as he holds on back T40. He holds off XL Gary and powering away TDB right up behind Larkin. But the manoeuvre not through just yet. He's sat right underneath the rear wing now towards the Casio Triangle. Larkin just about covers it off for the moment, but DRS will be on the Alpha Man side there, but it's a good exit from Larkin. Going clear at the front, and he's got a little bit more battle, but not much at that then. Heading down the main straight now, as now TDB flies up to him, in towards turn 1, looking to the inside line, going level in that first corner, and TDB is through into the race lead. They're brilliant from TDB. He now leads. Is he going to play the team game? Through goes Packer. He now gets up through Dylan. Spag with no DRS. Shouldn't put up too much resistance, so through goes Packer. Now to P7, Spag in front, trying to make up all he can. Now TDB leads, Larkin leads Zanima. Right, and Matt is all right with Larkin. All of a sudden, things thrown up in their heads. Is TDB going to try and break out in front, or is he going to try and hold back and allow his teammate to get back into this?
I haven't got a clue how this is going to work, because now this leaves Larkin vulnerable to Zaldama and Matthew 40. They could steal the race victory here off of Larkin if he's not careful. He has to try his best to keep up with TDB. If he can't do that, he'll leave himself vulnerable. TDB already an 8/10 gap to Larkin on this lap, so he's absolutely flying in clean air. It's a shame he's got that penalty, because without that, TDB would be looking for a possible first win of the season. Absolutely flying at the moment as he heads through Spoon. He's very close to breaking DRS, but Larkin equally is very close to breaking DRS again back to Zaldama. So I think as TDB and Larkin were fighting, that just put Zaldama back onto the back of them. Meanwhile, further down, Noon and Dylan running side by side through Spoon. I don't know if there was a little bit of contact, but they lost a bit of time. And now McCrass is going to try and have a go, maybe the pair of them, but Dylan slams the door coming into 130R. Can't get the move done. Can the Haas driver? He might have a look maybe into the Casio Triangle. Dylan's going to defend to the inside line. McCrass nearly into the back of him in the braking zone. Thinks better of it. Dylan might have a run back at Noon down the pit straight, and Packer is going to have a run. A fight here as Packer goes to the outside line and breezes past the Renault down to 6th. But he's only got 4 laps now to try and close in on the drivers in front.
As down the inside goes McCross, logically on Dylan through turn 2. There's a better wheel-to-wheel coincide, but Dylan is back. McCross crosses forward, and a P90 goes then, as now he continues to try and move up. Then he's got XL Noon just on the road, still ball necked up by his back, as now Packer pulling away from the rest of the Softwares. 2 seconds the gap to make up. It'll take a couple of laps before he's with them. He may only have 2 laps to get the overtakes done, and so that's going to make things all the more tough, as now TDB still leads him, but Larkin is hanging on to him. As the sound of behind, it's actually Matt that is struggling slightly more to stick and maintain that space, and so he's slipping back then from Larkin and Zonema. Traditionally, a man with so much pace is further back. Dylan off, heading through the hair. I'm not sure if there was contact with another car, but the Mercedes slipping back. Ariel Assassin gets through on Arcolo, so I'm not sure if they came together at some point. But Dylan heartbreakingly out of the points then. The hard runner just slipping back in the Mercedes then. Brutally disappointing for the Mercedes man. Not sure what happened there, but back goes Dylan round to the hairpin. Did you catch that, Aiden? Was there contact, or did he just go round himself?
I didn't quite catch the end of that. I was on board with Arcolo and then I jumped off just before the hairpin. I think they might have made contact on the exit of the corner. Very slight, but Dylan around in the end. He hasn't picked up any damage. Neither has Arcolo. Actually, Arcolo, though, diving into the pit lane in the end. He's just going to dive in. I imagine he probably will retire in the pit lane. He does, so he's out of the race completely now. Is Arcolo. That is a shame to see. But yeah, Dylan, just his season goes from bad to worse, doesn't it? A win at Monaco and only one other point this season. It's been a real disaster for him. Like you said, I'm really surprised that it's Matthew 40 that's struggling to keep up at this point in the race. Japan just doesn't seem to be his strong track. He can't keep up with Zaunama. Good thing for him is at least Gary can't really keep up with Matthew 40 either. He's just kind of sitting at the rear end of that DRS train, and Packard isn't closing in. It's only 1.8. He's only gained 2 tenths in the last 2 laps. Packard's not doing enough. I think 6th is probably the best that Packard can hope for here.
Well, possibly P5, but he's got another 2 seconds to make up on TDB. I think, yeah, there's just not enough speed left in those soft tires. He must have shredded them, trying to make the gains, and ultimately he's seen a race victory that he had the pace for. Maybe if he qualified higher up, he could have had a chance, but QVR Packer slipping back. It's been an admirable effort, but again, Larkin from Zonema up at the front end. Of course, Zonema with his best showing in a while. He has 1 podium this season in China, and you have to say right now he is looking at another one here, as now I think Dylan's dropped back from Nolan as well. They've came together actually, him and Shaco down there at Spoon Curve, and both of them now slipping out of points contention as Dylan with a puncture. Now he must have stretched those tires to the limit, and what does that mean for the Harbourers? Are they going to make it to the end? 2 laps to go, and all of a sudden a whole new dynamic in this race. Noob through on Spag on the Harbour is going to get to the end. This race is not over, or the Hardware is going to hang on at the front.
I was 100% sure the hards would get to the end with no problem. I know Dylan's had a spin, but that would more affect the rear tyres. The fact that Dylan's got a front right puncture on the hards, very bizarre. Still 2 laps to go. Right on the bubble for some of these drivers. Maybe is that why Matthew 40 is not as fast? Is he trying to protect those tyres in case of an eventual possible puncture for him? He's dropped right back now off the back of Zaunama. He's not close enough to really challenge, and at this point Matthew 40 runs the risk of losing 3rd place to TDB at this point in the race as well. So it's all hanging on the line at the moment. I'll tell you one thing I've noticed though in the last couple of laps, Zaunama is really gunning at Larkin. Zaunama wants this win. He hasn't won for a long time in Eloise. He's gunning for this race victory.
But Larkin still has DRS to defend himself up at the front of the race then. Just over 1 lap to go, and he's trying to see 3rd race victory in a row here. Is he going to bring it home to the checker flag then? TDB with a penalty. He's trying to secure that podium. He is tantalisingly close. Just 1/10 of a second in that gap between him and Matthew 40, who's struggling, labouring back in P4 now. 1 lap to go, and we're still unsure if these hard tires are going to hang on to the checker flag then. Now to the line then. It's TDB from Larkin from Zonema. That's the top 3 as they break away then. XL Garrett trying to challenge Matthew 40. Maybe trying to grab a podium, but I think that's unlikely. Packer has caught these guys now, but it's ultimately just too little, too late, unless there's some blue ends further down the order then. I'm seeing TDB beginning to struggle. Seeing the tires maybe beginning to fall away from him as the clouds are getting to cover. Are we going to see rain on the last lap? Who knows? But now, through on this last lap, and Zonema is throwing everything in XL Larkin here. In a Degna 1, in a Degna 2. Right. They are with him. Now, is the maneuver going to come through? It's not a penalty. He's going to try and work that he's going to get away from Spag, but I don't think it's going to be enough that he's dropping critical points as it stands. here in Division 2. Now, at the front of the race, Matt Demos grabs first lap of the race. A bit of a consolation for what's been a nightmare Grand Prix for the AlphaTauri man after such a strong qualifying. Now, heading up towards the line, it is TDB leading away from XL Larkin, who looks to be doing the impossible here. As now Packer with a penalty will not cost him, but it will rule out any chance of getting past Gary. But now, towards the final few corners, it is TDB in front then. He's led the second stint. He will come through in P1, but in the end, it will be a third race victory in a row. XL Larkin does it in the end. 3/10 of a second. Matthew 40 snatches the podium by less than a tenth of a second from TDB. A massive, colossal effort to get on the podium then. TDB P4, Gary P5, Packer, McCrass, Spag just beats Noon to the line then with that penalty. Ariel Assassin rounds out the top 10 from Nolan's going to race him. Jaco cross the line next. He's gunning for that fast lap, as is Dylan. And it will be those last four, Jaco, Dylan, Matt Table Slash, to cross the line. What a race. What a titanic effort from all the drivers. Larkin, though, amazingly, he's won again. Unbelievably. And now he's taking a major step towards the championship. Who would have thought this? 7 winners and 7 races at the start of the season. But now Larkin's came into his own. 3 wins in a row. Can anyone stop the Racing Point man?
I don't think anybody can at this, but that is an amazing drive. I think when he got his first win of the season, Larkin, I think most of us just thought that kind of came because of the wet conditions, but he's now won 2 races in a row in the complete dry conditions as well. In every situation, Larkin just doesn't seem to throw it under pressure. He seems to be able to cope with the pressure amazingly well, and it's paid off beautifully for him in these past few rounds. Packer as well, only P6. Matthew Thorty, a 3rd place in the end, somewhat of a consolidation for what could have been a much better race for Matthew Thorty. But Larkin still extends that gap, especially over Packer as well. And Packer's going to be very close to being jumped by Matthew Thorty, so Larkin's going to have a pretty sizable lead now going into the next few rounds.
He certainly will. Of course, we'll get things calculated as soon as we can. But he already led the championship heading into this race. And the 4th win of the season. No one else has won more than 1 race. Stellar stuff. And now, of course, he sits right at the top there. He's had a very average season up to the point, but my oh my, as he came to form. Zonoman P2, what a drive from him. We've not seen much from him all season. He had a lot of pace today, and he sees it through. Matthew 40 just grabs the podium from Paper TDB P4. It is Gary P5, Packer probably disappointed with 6th in the end. Then McCrass is 7th from Spag, and Noon with a late penalty costing him dearly. Would have had P6 otherwise. Then Ariel Assassin comes through, and the points are rounded up by Nolan and Scuderia Seb. Jaco, Dylan, Matt Tibos, Slash. We saw, of course, the connection issues from Matt Tibos and Slash throughout that race, and it was Arcolo and Ryan that, in the end, didn't see out the checkered flag. That was a stunning race yet again at Japan. Yet again, D2 delivers. Will I imagine get thoughts from all our podium sitters from that race. That was another stunner, Aiden. Thoroughly enjoyed covering that one. And in the end, Larkin stretches advantages at the front of the field. We'll see how things are going to unfold. We are now joined by XL Larkin. And I think we'll get the other guys in very shortly. So, first of all, to you, Larkin, I don't know how you do it. I seriously don't know. That was absolutely stunning from you out there then. Made the right strategy call. Had to put up with a lot of fights, so just about drove it home. Talk us through your emotions after a 3rd race victory in a row.
Yeah, again, I don't really know what to say. They've all been very different wins, I think. I was a lot more confident going into today. I knew that I had the pace. But at the same time, I think that adds a bit of pressure, and it gives me a bit more nerves, knowing that I'm qualifying near at the front, knowing that I can achieve the win, as opposed to the last couple where it's sort of come a bit out of the blue. But yeah, it was a pretty good race. A safety car at the start sort of threw a spanner into the works. I didn't really know what to do. My Jeff in the party told me to box and put hards on, and that worked. So thanks to Jeff, and thanks to my teammate for doing me a solid in the race.
Yeah, certainly. At what point did you realise, because you seem to have some pretty impressive pace on the hards relative to the medium runners in front then, and you're just about able to stick in then. At what point did you feel like that when that potential race win was on the cards then, because it played into your hands? Were you worried at all that the soft runners charging at you, because they were some way back, but they were flying at first then? Do you think they had any chance of reeling you in?
Not really. I was more worried by the guys right behind me, to be honest. Like you say, my pace felt good when I was in that train and I was just following the guys in front. But then it was when Nolan boxed that I then seemed to struggle a lot more, and I had TDB right behind me, and I knew Zuidema was catching up as well. That's when I was starting to panic. I mean, my tyres were on 85% as well at the end of the race. So I was in major panic stations as well, expecting to puncture any second. But again, I guess the racing gods are looking down on me.
They certainly are. That is a fourth win in 5 races. Unbelievable. I'm going to come to you quickly, Aidan. Do you have anything more to add for a race winner?
I was just actually going to ask, Arkin, about the tyre wear kind of situation. When did you kind of first realise that it was going to be a struggle to get those hards to the end of the race? Because we saw late on that Dylan did actually get a puncture just 2 laps towards the end. So was that a major concern for you fairly early on, or did it only really spring up on you towards the end of the race?
Well, I hit lap 20, and that's when I got the 60% notification, and I knew there were another 7 or 8 laps to go, and that wasn't a good thing to see popping up, especially because Callie, who I'm in the party with, got a puncture in the D4 race when his were on 75%. So oof. I was just, I had everything crossed, had my toes crossed, my fingers crossed, and yeah, it worked.
Brilliant stuff. And thank you very much to you, Larkin. Congratulations yet again. Getting a bit boring here, must be said, but gonna come next to our second place finisher, Excel Zenema. And I have to say, man, that is the best I've seen you drive in an awful long time. Talk us through that race then, of course. Again, with that hard start, with the of course pinning for the hards early on. Then, what was the position then? Were you confident you get the tires to the end of the race, and were you confident in your pace that you could hang on to the other guys around?
Well, first off, I was very disappointed when I saw a wet quali, because I know I had the pace to get pole or close to pole if it was dry. So then I was, what was I, P12 in the quali or something like that? And I was like, oh no, this has gone wrong for me. And then lap 1, I got wing damage, and I was like, oh no, everything's wrong. And then at the end of lap 1, there was a safety car. I was like, this could get me some points again. So I pitted to hards, knowing with the safety car that I would make it to the end, because I'm usually very good on tire wear. And from that on, I just stuck in the train. It helped that other people made mistakes as well. And in the end, I just didn't have the pace to get Larkin, I guess. But I was disappointed I couldn't get the win, but it's still a very good comeback, so I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, of course, that is your best result of the season. Your second podium, of course, the first since China. And so, what are your thoughts going into future rounds? Of course, that was a very great race from you, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from you. Are you confident? Because I wouldn't take any offence from this, but you do seem like quite a track-dependent guy. You're confident in the future rounds that you can go well there as well?
Like the next track is Spain, which is a track where I'm usually fast, but I never have good races there. And then there's a few other tracks where I'm going to be good, like Spa. But also tracks like Brazil, where I'm probably going to be near the back.
Well, let's see if things unfold. Aidan, do you have anything to add?
I don't really have any questions for you, Adam. It's just more of an applause for your best race of the season. It's great to see more and more people scoring podiums. Obviously, this isn't your first podium of the season, but it's still great to see you up there at Suzuka at the top step. And I think I fully expected you to be right at the front of the field. Actually, having seen you in practice throughout the week in the dry, I knew you were going to be gutted when it was wet qualifying, as were some of the drivers, I imagine, as well. Some of the other drivers as well. So, a great recovery from the back of the field.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent stuff. And so coming now to our third placed finisher in the race, Mr. Matt TU40. Congratulations on yet another podium. I think that now you and Larkin are tied for. Actually, no, I think you are now in isolation. You have the most podiums out of anyone this season, then, with 5. But talk us through that race. Essentially, obviously, we saw you going off very early under the safety car. What happened there with that incident? And were you confident? Did you have any hope at that point that you'd be able to drive home and get a podium?
In all honesty, I just my brain went to it went to Narnia, and my buddy was still here driving, and yeah, I just tried to warm up the tires. Like my Jeff said, oh yeah, try to warm up your tires now. Safety car will probably be in. I, for some reason, decided to go like, oh yeah, let's weave and press the throttle at the same time. That's a good idea. And round I went. Just looked at everyone go past, like hanging my head in shame. Got a bit lucky with Lenny apparently getting an illegal overtake, at least I think, because he let me back past. And yeah, from then on, I have no clue how I got a podium, especially against the 3 guys ahead of me who just today had better pace than I did.
Yeah, but what was the experience like? Because we saw you had some great battles out there certainly during the race. What was the experience like? And at what moment did it register to you that a podium might just be on the cards?
When I pitted, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm net P2. Podium should be on the cards. Then I did that, and ended up behind Zodama, and I realized, okay, this guy's got insane pace around here. If I can stay with him, then I might be able to get a top 4, top 5, something like that. And yeah, the battles were great, especially that one with J. Cole. That was really satisfying to make it through there in one piece, through that chicane. And yeah, after that, the battle with Gary and Zodama was really fun.
Yeah, it certainly looked fun for Buzz in the commentary box as well. Aidan, I'm going to come to you. Do you have anything left to say?
Yeah, I think just going into future rounds, how are you feeling about the next round? I believe which is at Spain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Spain as a circuit? And obviously, how are you feeling about the championship now with Larkin starting to run away with things a little bit?
Spain is a track where I am quick, but I don't feel comfortable around there. So yeah, I'm expecting a few mistakes in the race, which will put pressure on me from the guys behind. And yeah, Larkin ahead of me. Yeah, he's just doing a great job right now. He's driving the best out of everyone in D2, and yeah, he deserves to be nearly a race win ahead of me in the championship. But yeah, of course, I'll be trying to claw that back and hopefully put myself back into proper title contention.
It's going to be great to see you try and work your way back towards it. Thank you to you all for the podium interviews. Thank you very much for your time. Before we do get off the air, though, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Aidan Carter. Any final thoughts on the day, and who would your driver of the day be?
Final thoughts. I think it was an absolutely brilliant race once again. I think D2 never fails to surprise us, and so many different people could have won at different points in that race. Obviously had a few unlucky drivers today, especially in the likes of Matt Tibos and Slash, who could have had amazing races but were caught out just through connection problems, unfortunately. But still an amazing race, and great to see Larkin now 3 wins in a row. Can anyone stop him, really? He's on such a run of form. It's going to have to take a bit of a crash landing for him to be knocked off that top step at the moment. And I think in terms of driver of the day for me as well, I'm going to have to go for Zaldivar. I think purely on the fact that he started a little bit lower down, had damage on the first lap, pitted at the end of the first lap, and still recovered to a second place finish. I think he definitely gets my driver of the day.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with you on that. And regardless, I think he went from about 13th on the grid to P2. Stunning drive. And from all of our podium setters as well. A lot to look forward to from the next round of LOE Division 2 in a week's time for the Spanish Grand Prix. Be sure not to miss it. Should be another cracker on our hands. But I think that's just about everything said and done for tonight. So, with now the 10th round of LOE Division 2, Season 5 in the books then, just 6 races to go in the championship. We're getting to the business end of it now, but with everything done and in the books for tonight then, it has been myself, Daniel Holgard, Aidan Carter alongside me, and for both of us, it is, until next time, we'll see you later.